Hi, everybody, and welcome to SED 356, our midterm checkup, otherwise known as What Have I Learned That Will Help Me Get a Job in This Class So Far. I know some of you are a little nervous about not having class these past four classes on campus, but being online instead. So I thought I'd put together this quick video just to help you kind of place what we're learning in space better and have a better idea of how we're going to pull all this together in the last half of the course when we look at literacy and math and IEPs and tie all that together with instruction. So a quick flashback to August. At the beginning of the course, we started by talking about UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, and we've been talking more about that. You just completed your first lesson plan, which I'll be grading in the next 2 or 3 days and giving you feedback on your lesson plan revision. But know when we talk about UDL that this is an overarching frame that we're going to use for instruction, and it's an inclusive practice meant for the general education classroom, but also applicable to resource settings. And it's designed to support all learners the same way curb cuts support and elevators and ramps support all of us, whether we have a disability or not. And we all use those things to great advantage. So what does that mean for lesson plans and teaching? A quick summary of that would be, we want to use technology in how we teach and how students learn. So what I'm doing as a teacher, what the students are doing, we want to use as much technology as is appropriate, for sure in every lesson, engaging students through appropriate technologies. We want to make sure that we're teaching in lots of ways and considering that multiple intelligences and VACT stuff. So we're thinking about adding music and motion and kinesthetic supports, which would be motion, but can also be, doing projects with our hands. We want to think about making sure things are visual and auditory, that we're giving kids existential explanations when they need that, the big picture, how the world works. We're looking at naturalistic intelligences, so things that relate to nature. We're learning about how to learn within ourselves and how to learn in pairs. We're giving kids lots of choices in what they do to engage in learning. So I'm teaching in all kinds of exciting ways, and then students are engaging in learning in interesting and new ways, and they have choices about how they're doing that. So it's not just I stand at the board, teach you how to do simple addition, one digit, and then I give you a worksheet. That is not universal design, but rather that I've given kids the opportunity to use manipulatives to play a game on the computer. I've given them some paper so that they can draw a mural that would demonstrate their knowledge. I've given them a computer and an iPad so they can use Educreations and draw out their own presentation. And at the same token, I'm giving students lots of choices and ways to demonstrate their learning, both formative and summative, and using tech when appropriate so kids can engage, engage, engage. A teaching note, when I did this presentation, I created it in Screencast-O-Matic, and this is a great UDL tool. I can use this as part of my flipped classroom. It's a free tool. I've downloaded the app onto my MacBook Air and pull it up whenever I want to record something. It's quick, it's simple, it's free. So I can pre-teach in the flipped classroom. I can also use it as my main instruction. I can add bells and whistles to it, and I can use it for reteaching by sending it home with students virtually. So how can I increase my instructional momentum keeping that UDL frame? One of the main ways is to make sure we're relating to our students. And what does that mean? Think back to the very first class when we talked about the fun theory and Volkswagen. If you've forgotten that, go back to that link. Learning needs to be fun and engaging. Think about bringing the magic and the mystery, and that's kind of the why to engagement. Once kids are engaged and interested and they are asking why, then they're more likely to retain knowledge. We want to make sure that we're meeting the students' learning needs, and that's again going back to multiple intelligences and VACT strategies. And we also want to make sure we're relating to their experiences and interests, thinking about their schema. If these are kids who grew up in South Carolina near the beach and have just recently moved here, they come from a multi-generational family and they live for all things Duck Dynasty, they love football, then I want to relate those things that they are interested in into my teaching, because that's something the student already knows, and that's how they can hang this new learning to make sure that they retain it. Otherwise, we're just dropping random facts into their head, and it's like a messy closet. When kids go in to retrieve knowledge, they can't find anything. But if I've helped them hang new information on that super duper closet made closet where everything's organized and color coded, they can retrieve information because I've hung it on the right schema. So when we're talking about ways students can learn, here's some of the things that we've talked about so far in this methods class. And we spent quite a good bit of time talking about cooperative learning and looking at different groupings and ways that students can learn. You did a cooperative learning lesson plan, and so we know that think, pair, share is an option, and we know that there's all kinds of different groups that we can use so that students can engage. And we've also said, I've said multiple times in class, direct instruction is one of the best ways to provide initial instruction to students with disabilities, especially when we're thinking errorless learning. I want you to learn this accurately, so I'm not going to let you explore 4 plus 2 for an hour and come up with the answer 9. I'm going to teach you 4 plus 2 is 6. I'm going to do a game. I'm going to draw that on the board. We're going to sing a song, we're going to watch a video, we're going to do all kinds of cool things, and then you're going to go off and explore through cooperative learning. But first, I'm going to teach, and teach, and then teach some more so that students have an accurate understanding of the concept. Cooperative learning is fantastic. We know that we need to scaffold cooperative learning for students with disabilities who may have struggles with social skills, who may be behind a few grade levels in reading or math skills. So we want them to have important jobs. And we talked about some of those jobs, whether that's a student who's getting the resources, a student who's in charge of technology, the student could be in charge of timekeeping. They could be the ones that are speaking as the talker for the group, but everyone needs important jobs, including students with disabilities. So those pairings are very important. If you've forgotten some of the key cooperative learning groups and how those can be interwoven and used together, please be sure to go back to that second week and third week of learning and make sure you know what those groups are, because that will continue to be important throughout this course and through your teaching. So now we're looking at individual students and their learning needs, and we've worked with IEPs and talked extensively about present levels of performance and started to work with IEP goals. So we know that we need to focus on students' strengths and their needs and teach from a strength-based perspective. We need to also make sure that we're focusing on specially designed instruction. That's how I teach, like direct instruction, and the supplementary aids and services that a student needs so that they can engage in materials and be successful. And those are spelled out very specifically by disability category in the IEP handbook that was created by the state of Kentucky. That's one of the uploads in the content section. You'll want to keep that resource handy and refer to it often, especially in our next few lesson plans. Social skills, we cannot say enough about. It's really important for kids to be able to fit in, and we need to help many of our students develop appropriate social skills, whether that's making friends or appropriate engagement in conversation, knowing how to ask for help. We know that students with disabilities are at a much higher risk for abuse, both physical, mental, not both, that's 3 categories, physical, mental, and sexual abuse. We know that students with disabilities are at a much higher risk for suicide. And we are often the first and only people that students will tell or give any hint to the fact that they're contemplating or being placed at risk. So we need to support our students and make sure they have the social skills they need. Rick Lavoie, whom I consider to be one of the most phenomenal people in special education, talks in one of his videos about a social skills autopsy. And what he means by that is helping students deconstruct times that just go wrong and find out what they need to do differently the next time. A great example of that is a student who screams out in the middle of class, "Quit talking about me." And you meet with the student later and say, let's review what happened. We were working in cooperative groups, and I was standing in the middle of the groups, and I noticed that group B, they were talking about the book that we were reading. When you screamed at them, you thought they were talking about you, but they were really talking about the characters in the book. What can you do differently next time to be a better friend. So really help the kids understand and deconstruct when times go bad. More social skills. You can never have too much social skills training. We can teach social skills through modeling. We can use direct instruction. Lots of students do really well with role play, and remember the importance of social stories. We wrote several social stories. That's a key strategy a lot of times for students on the autism spectrum, but it works well for all students across disability categories. We need to think carefully about how we're teaching social skills and make sure that we're providing scaffolding and practice opportunities and not just thinking it's one and done. I taught you, now you should have it done. We also need to complete task analyses to make sure we've broken it down. A great example is going to prom. If we're sending students with disabilities to the prom, we need to break that down into how do you ask friends to go with you? What do you do when you get there? What do you wear before you even get there? What do you do? What about drinking and eating at the event? How do you handle conversation? What do you do about dancing? Break things down into their smallest components to set our kids up for success. I know that some of you are a little nervous about tech, but you really need to learn to embrace the moment and start thinking tech, and more great tech. You're going to be judged in KTIP and through the PGES system in Kentucky on your ability to use tech as a teacher and how you engage students with tech, how they're using it in every lesson every day. So it's more than just Dr. Clark's craziness. It's more than just a one and done situation. You really need to embrace and start thinking of how I can incorporate tech into every day and moment of my class. And at the same time, I'm always thinking, what's the backup plan? We've all had experience with this in our class with using Nearpod. Sometimes it's fantastic, it works so well, and other times the whole system fries and we're back to square one. So we want to make sure we've got great tech planned and a great backup plan if tech isn't working for us. We're headed into an entire unit, or continuing through an entire unit on reading, and we know that reading is more than just something to do, but it's the key linchpin to student learning. So we have to help our students learn to read as close to grade level as possible. And how are we going to do that? It has to be through research-based strategies. It's a requirement. It's the best thing to do. So we want to make sure we're developing a fantastic toolkit. As a future teacher, I know you all want a job, and I'm trying to give you guidance, hopefully, that will help you get that job. Live Binder, which I've been looking at some of yours and they're looking awesome, is a fantastic showcase that you could send as a URL to a principal to say, here's what I understand about literacy and teaching reading. Make sure that you're really setting yourself up for success and not just going through the motions of one more assignment for 356, but think of it as this is how I'm going to get a job. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to call or send me an email. I look forward to talking with you on Tuesday. Can't wait to see all your presentations. Make sure that you're checking that list, and if you were supposed to present last week or this week or next week, that you're ready to present on Tuesday, because all those presentations will happen on Tuesday. Can't wait to see you all. Have a great week.